Is close to the family of rapper Yo Gotti confirmed the man killed outside a Hickory Hill event center is Gotti.
And Yo Gotti, the brother of Big Jook, allegedly continued the cycle of retaliation. In the end, the man who was believed to be responsible for his brother's death was taken out.
So it's probably possible it's in retaliation to Young Dolph. And if that's the case, and that's his brother,
But what Gotti never expected was that the federal government would eventually step into the picture. According to reports circulating in Memphis, federal investigators may already have enough evidence to keep him behind bars for the rest of his life. Because behind the music industry, behind the flashing lights, platinum records, in sold-out arenas, there exists another kind of power entirely.
Sit and downplay your artists and throw your artists up on the bus to try to persuade me in to come over.
A quieter kind of power. A heavier kind of power. Not the power of the stage, but the power that operates in shadows. The type of power that moves pieces on the board without ever appearing to move at all. The kind of power that makes decisions other people are forced to live with. Or die from. Anthony Big Jook Mims was that kind of power. You may recognize the name. Big Jook was the older brother of Mario Mims, the man the world knows as Yo Gotti, one of the most commercially successful rappers Memphis has ever produced. Within Collective Music Group, better known as CMG, Big Jook was a central figure. CMG had grown into a serious force in the rap industry. The label housed major artists like Moneybagg Yo, Glorilla, and ESTG, and it had become one of the most powerful independent operations in Southern hip-hop. Yet Big Jook's exact role was never formally defined.
Gotti was texting my phone for 2 years straight. What you doing, bro? What you working on, bro? Let's do this.
He wasn't the one on stage. He wasn't the one releasing albums or giving interviews. Instead, he was the man in the room when the real conversations happened. The talent scout, the organizer, the fixer. The one whose Instagram page was filled wall to wall with CMG promotion. Always present, always involved, always somewhere near the center of everything. Big Jook was 47 years old when he was killed, but the story of how he died cannot be understood without first understanding the story of how he lived. More specifically, the story of how he allegedly used the power and influence of one of Memphis's most powerful music organizations to wage a private war against a man who refused to join their team. That man was Young Dolph. The origins of the CMG versus Paper Route Empire feud trace all the way back to 2014. That was the year Adolph Chornton Jr., better known as Young Dolph, publicly revealed that he had turned down an offer to sign with CMG.
A very vicious diss song where Dolph was dissing Gotti's brother, Big Jook, who obviously has become a big part of this. He's obviously part. Dolph dropped that very, very vicious diss track, absolutely tore Big Jook and Yo Gotti apart. He had the body double.
Dolph had built Paper Route Empire with his own money, reportedly investing nearly $3 million of his own funds into the label, and he had no interest in giving ownership of what he built to anyone else, no matter how attractive the offer may have been. Dolph later explained that he had even sat in the studio with Yo Gotti, listening to the proposal directly. But when the meeting ended, he walked away. However, it wasn't just the rejection itself that planted the seed of conflict. It was the way the meeting unfolded. According to Dolph, Gotti cleared the entire room so the two of them could talk privately. Then, he began speaking negatively about some of his own signed artists, mentioning names like Zilla and Alley Boy, essentially throwing them under the bus in order to sell Dolph on the deal. The message was simple. They need babysitting, but you're different. To Dolph, that moment was a warning sign. If a man was willing to speak that way about his own artists behind closed doors, what would he say about someone else once they were signed?
Don't forget, yep. Where were you at? I was at home.
For Dolph, it was a red flag. So he said no. He kept Paper Route Empire independent. But according to Dolph, Gotti continued texting him for nearly 2 more years, still trying to convince him to change his mind. Memphis, however, is a small city, and in Memphis, independence can sometimes be interpreted as defiance. Saying no to the wrong person in the wrong room can carry consequences that have nothing to do with music. By 2016, what had once been a quiet rejection exploded into a very public rivalry. That year, Dolph released his debut album, King of Memphis, and he released it on the exact same day that Yo Gotti dropped The Art of Hustle. The title alone was a direct challenge to Gotti's long-standing claim as the king of the city. The message was clear. There were now 2 kings fighting for the same crown. That same month, CMG artist Black Youngster allegedly pulled up to Dolph's neighborhood in South Memphis with an armed group searching for him. From that moment forward, the feud escalated rapidly.
And did somebody call you or?
Somebody called me in the house, like, you know, how you can hear when somebody call your name, like the tone of their voice, like you know something.
Diss tracks, social media attacks, public taunts. And then in February 2017, Dolph released a song that changed everything. Play With Yo Bitch. The record was a brutal personal attack aimed directly at Yo Gotti. In the music video, Dolph used a Gotti lookalike, mocking him publicly in front of the entire hip-hop world. But the song didn't stop there. It also mentioned Big Jook by name. Journalist Laura Ross, who has extensively documented this conflict, described the track as devastating, not only musically, but personally. For a man like Big Jook, who operated quietly behind the scenes yet carried serious influence in Memphis's street hierarchy, being dragged into a public rap video was not something that could simply be laughed off. For someone like him, it demanded a response.
You holding up?
I'm content.
Just 25 days after the diss track was released, Young Dolph's bulletproof SUV was ambushed in Charlotte, North Carolina during CIAA weekend. Over 100 rounds were fired into the vehicle. Black Youngsta and 2 associates were later charged with discharging a weapon into occupied property. The charges against Youngsta were eventually dropped. Dolph survived. His vehicle was bulletproof.
Obviously, you're supposed to get $40,000, but you got $500.
That same night, he performed his concert as scheduled and later turned the entire experience into an album titled Bulletproof. But the violence didn't stop. 7 months later, in September 2017, Dolph was shot outside the Loews Hollywood Hotel in Los Angeles. Both Yo Gotti's entourage and Dolph's team had been staying at the same hotel. LAPD briefly listed Gotti as a person of interest, but he was eventually cleared. One of Gotti's associates, Corey McClendon, was arrested for attempted murder but later released without charges.
All right, so now we've been paid about $800.
Yeah.
And through all of this, Big Jook remained in the background, never charged, never officially named, operating exactly the way powerful men who work in the shadows often do, visible in the consequences, invisible in the cause. But according to later testimony in court, the violence was building to something far more permanent than shootings or drive-bys. Prosecutors would later claim that Big Jook had begun organizing something much bigger, a contract killing.
There's a rumor going around that the shooting happened in front of his mother, and the footage of Jook bleeding out on the ground was even circulating on social media. So it was a very gruesome way, and I don't condone that kind of behavior in any way, but it is very messed up and ironic.
And according to court documents, Young Dolph wasn't the only target. Authorities allege that Big Jook had placed bounties on multiple members of Paper Route Empire. $100,000 on Young Dolph, $50,000 on Key Glock, $50,000 on PRE Woo, $20,000 on Snoopy Bands, $5,000 on Moochie Grape. An entire independent label priced for elimination. When that list surfaced online, the reaction from fans was immediate. Supporters flooded social media with one message: protect Key Glock at all costs. Key Glock, Dolph's cousin and protege, had a $50,000 bounty on his head and reportedly had no idea how close the danger had been. Big Jook's final Instagram post came on January 12, 2024. The caption read, "They don't want to face you, they want to snake you. Stay alert, stay alive. Watch your back at all times."
You know, Dolph got killed on camera, Jook got killed on camera, you know, for the whole world to see.
He posted it one day before he was shot and killed in a parking lot outside a funeral in front of his own mother. The man who allegedly built a machine of violence against an entire label never lived to see a courtroom. Because in Memphis, the streets often move faster than the courts ever will. $800. That was the total amount ultimately paid for the life of a man who had built a $100 million empire on his own terms. A man who had reportedly turned down $12 million record deals because he understood his own value. $800. But the payment itself was not the most explosive part of the courtroom testimony. During cross-examination, Cornelius Smith revealed something even more shocking. Under questioning from defense attorney Luke Evans, Smith admitted that $50,000 in legal fees had been paid on his behalf by someone connected to CMG. After his arrest, Smith said he did not know exactly who arranged the payment. The money never passed through his hands directly. Instead, it went straight to his lawyer. But according to Smith, the funds came from the CMG side.
Jook was my partner.
Really? Okay, I never met him.
Yeah, Jook was
I
my
never met
Evans pushed the implication immediately, suggesting that the payment may have been compensation for services already rendered. Smith rejected that interpretation. He insisted that he was testifying simply to get the truth off his chest. He already knew he was going to prison, he said. Eventually, your conscience speaks. The defense attacked Smith's credibility throughout the trial. They pointed out that he had initially lied to police, that he had clear personal incentive to minimize his own role, and that parts of his story contained inconsistencies. Justin Johnson's attorney argued that the prosecution's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence, clothing descriptions, surveillance footage, and testimony from a cooperating witness who stood to benefit from a reduced sentence. But the jury was not convinced. After less than 4 hours of deliberation, they returned with their verdict: guilty.
Probably about 5 days.
Even before the verdict, industry figures were already warning about where the investigation might lead next. Music manager Wack 100 publicly warned Yo Gotti on social media that federal prosecutors could potentially pursue RICO charges, the same type of racketeering cases often used against organized crime groups. The theory he described would connect a series of violent incidents stretching from the 2017 Charlotte shooting all the way to the Makeda's Cookies murder in 2021. No federal indictment has been announced publicly, but the fact that someone so close to the industry felt comfortable making that prediction publicly says a lot about how dramatically the courtroom testimony had shifted the conversation. Throughout all of it, Yo Gotti has remained completely silent. He has issued no public statement addressing the allegations. CMG has made no comment. Every attempt by reporters to contact the label during the trial went unanswered. The silence has been total. Meanwhile, the man whose name had become central to the courtroom testimony, the man prosecutors claimed had financed the entire murder plot, was already dead. Big Jook had been killed 9 months before the trial even began. And the story of how that happened is perhaps the darkest chapter of the entire saga. January 13th, 2024. It was a repass, the gathering held after a funeral service. Family members and friends had gathered at Perignon's Restaurant and Event Center on Winchester Road in Memphis. The man being buried that day was Eric Bowen, described as a relative of the Mims family and a former Memphis cocaine kingpin. Big Jook was there. His mother was there. Yo Gotti had reportedly just left the gathering shortly before the shooting. At approximately 4:15 p.m., gunshots suddenly erupted in the parking lot. A Memphis police officer nearby heard the shots and responded immediately. 2 victims were discovered with multiple gunshot wounds. The second victim survived after being airlifted to Regional 1 Health in critical condition. Big Jook did not. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. Police later released surveillance images of the suspected getaway vehicle, a white Ford Explorer with dark-tinted windows and black wheels. Witnesses said they saw the SUV speeding away from the scene moments after the gunfire. Within hours, video footage of Big Jook bleeding in that parking lot began circulating across social media. Just as surveillance footage from Makeda's cookies had spread across the internet after Young Dolph's murder. 2 killings, both captured on camera. Both watched by the world. Journalist Laura Ross, who'd been documenting the entire feud for years, pointed out the chilling symmetry. Young Dolph had been killed in broad daylight, on camera, in a place he visited frequently. Big Jook, the man prosecutors say helped orchestrate that murder, was also killed in broad daylight, on camera, at a gathering where his own family had come to mourn someone else. The mechanics of the violence were almost identical. The cameras caught everything. Rapper Boosie Badass, who knew Big Jook personally, reacted with genuine grief. This wasn't the performative mourning that often floods social media after celebrity deaths. Boosie had spoken with Big Jook just 5 days before the shooting. They had been working on music together, a collaboration, a verse still unfinished. When the news broke, Boosie's first phone call was to a CMG artist he was close with. His message was simple: leave Memphis. Stop going back. You have a daughter who needs you. Right now, that city is not safe for anyone connected to this situation. As of the most recent reports, Big Jook's murder remains unsolved. No arrests, no suspects publicly identified. Memphis police continue to list the case as an active investigation. Authorities have never officially confirmed any connection between his killing and the Young Dolph case, but in a city as tight-knit as Memphis, many people watching closely believe the connection speaks for itself. The security surrounding Big Jook's funeral told its own story. Helicopters overhead, snipers positioned on rooftops around the funeral home, police presence everywhere. For that day, the focus of Memphis law enforcement was concentrated around one building, one family, one group of people who had been at the center of this conflict from the beginning. That was Memphis in the aftermath. A city so scarred by violence that even a funeral required military-level security just to take place safely. Then came September 26, 2024. Shelby County Criminal Court, Memphis, Tennessee. Justin Johnson, the rapper known as Straight Drop, sat at the defense table. Prosecutors said he had been promised a CMG recording deal in exchange for carrying out the murder of Young Dolph. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Then, the verdict came. Guilty on every count. First-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, felon in possession of a firearm. Judge Jennifer Mitchell sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the punishment did not stop there. On November 1, 2024, the judge added additional consecutive sentences: 35 years for conspiracy, 15 years for firearm possession, life plus 50 years. The recording contract he allegedly believed he was working toward turned into a prison cell in Tennessee. The legal aftermath continued. Johnson's attorney filed a motion for a new trial in October 2024, arguing problems with testimony and evidence credibility. Judge Mitchell denied the motion. On January 14, 2025, that decision effectively closed the door. An appeal may still come, but no filing has been confirmed. Other people caught in the fallout faced different consequences. Jamarcus Johnson, Justin's half-brother, the man who helped manage communications after the murder, pleaded guilty to 3 counts of accessory after the fact. Instead of prison, he received a 6-year diversion program. If he completes it successfully, the charges will eventually be dismissed. A second chance, built partly on the testimony he provided against his own brother. Cornelius Smith, the cooperating witness and first shooter, still awaits final resolution in his own case. No plea deal has been publicly confirmed. His future depends entirely on what prosecutors decide his cooperation is worth. The alleged middleman, Hernandez Govan, also continues to fight the charges. He has rejected multiple plea offers and maintained his not guilty plea. If convicted, he faces life in prison. But in July 2025, something unusual happened. The judge ordered all pre-trial motions, responses, and rulings in his case sealed. No explanation has been given. The documents could involve protected witnesses, sensitive evidence, or information tied to other ongoing investigations. Whatever is inside those files, the public cannot see it. What we do know is this: the man prosecutors say operated in the shadows for years, the man who allegedly placed bounties on rival rappers, died in a parking lot outside a funeral before he ever had to answer those accusations in court. The man prosecutors say he hired to pull the trigger is now serving life plus 50 years. The alleged middleman is still awaiting trial, and Big Jook's own murder remains unsolved. The white Ford Explorer used in the shooting disappeared into the Memphis streets. No suspects, no arrests, no answers. Meanwhile, life moves forward. Paper Route Empire continues. Key Glock, the rapper who once had a $50,000 bounty placed on his head, kept recording music while all of this unfolded around him. In May 2025, he released a new album and signed with Republic Records, honoring the legacy of his cousin Young Dolph the only way he knew how: by continuing the work.